Oh, comparison group. Comparison group. I know. Don't you think I'm disappointed? I know this episode was supposed to be my first ever guest on the show. I know. I also didn't see no Aurora Borealis. This so-called springtime weather sucks. No doggone tornadoes. This year sucks. On a positive note, it's May 14th and I'll be able to keep my New Year's resolution going. I've gotten blackout drunk every day this year so far. The guest is coming. I just couldn't wait any longer to put out a show. There's obviously been a delay, but the guest is coming, I promise. Let's not dwell on it. Let's just focus on making this a great episode. You know the deal. The 3 I's. Interesting, informative, and entertaining. That's what we want to make this episode. And if you hang in there with me till the end, I'll give you my solution to everything. Everything? Yes. Everything in this country. I'll give you my solution. You know this podcast. If you're in the comparison group, I believe in giving solutions, ideas, and suggestions. I try and do it every episode. Anyone can rant and rave and tell you what's wrong about everything, wrong with everybody. But at some point, someone's got to start offering some ideas to fix what's obviously broken. So hang in till the end, and I'll give you my solution. You know what? I better do it now, because too many people can't handle this show. It hurts their sensitive ears and get offended very easily. So maybe I better just go ahead and do it now. Okay, my suggestion to fix everything. We need to amend and add 7 words to the Constitution. Just 7 words can fix everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fix everything. I love this country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love the individual freedoms given to us and enshrined in the Constitution. Freedom that has been fought for. Lives have been sacrificed to safeguard those freedoms, to be handed down from generation to generation. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to peaceably assemble, the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Fantastic. Fantastic. But there are words missing. There are 7 words missing. And those words are, but act like you got some sense. Those are the missing words we need to add to the Constitution to fix everything. But act like you got some sense. Freedom of speech. But act like you got some sense. The right to petition your government for a redress of grievances. But act like you got some sense. The right to bear arms. But act like you got some sense. We do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. But act like you got some sense. It's just a suggestion. It's just a suggestion. Let's see if anybody out there takes me up on it. But let's move on. I'm going to use this unexpected episode to play a bunch of clips for you. Mostly unrelated. Some are recent, but some I've had for a while and just haven't gotten to. It's been stuff I've been trying to get to, haven't gotten to. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to hit you with the clip and we'll discuss. And I'm not even going to try and weave this into a cohesive, flowing show. I'm just going to bang through the clips. But the theme is related to the title of this episode, A Tale of Two Stormy's. Now, to explain that title, all I have to tell you is that, as you know, Stormy Daniels testified in the ongoing Trump trial last week, and how she did depends on where you get your information, what media you listen to. Guess which media thought she did well, held her own, gave as good as she got? Which media do you think said it was a disaster for the prosecution? She didn't come across well at all. Her story kept changing. This is what I heard from the media. And I have no idea who to believe because we have no audio or video from the trial, so we are relying solely on their interpretation. So I call this episode A Tale of Two Stormy's, to be topical, but it could be a tale of two realities. So let's listen to some clips and let's discuss. The first couple of clips are recent, just a few days ago, and I'm still not convinced they're real. All right? Listen to this young lady struggle to wrap her head around why the country has debt. All right?
USA is in debt. Everybody's in debt. Why don't we just print more money? And hold on, because I've heard the whole inflation, it'll go up topic. Well, just don't. Just don't make it go up. Just get the printers going. Let's print some more money. Like, what? Aren't we the ones printing money? Hold on. Let me really logically think about this. The trees make paper. The paper is money. Okay. So we cut down more trees, snip, and we print some more money. The world would be a better place if I was president. No inflation, nothing goes up. We just print more money. We don't just give it away, but we print it and then we're not in debt anymore. Because aren't we like a lot in debt? Okay, I'm not stupid.
No, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
For real, though.
You definitely are. So once again, comparison group, I have no idea if that clip from TikTok is real. I don't know if it's someone trying to be funny. I don't know if it's someone trying to parody people who they think exist out there. I have no clue. And because of that, I would not have played it for you. If you know the show, I don't do nothing without there's a purpose. So if I play that clip for you, not even knowing if it's real, I have a purpose. And the purpose is so I can play this next clip for you that is real, as best as I can tell. I've tried 6 ways from Sunday to verify if this clip is real because I still can't believe it. This is Joe Biden's top economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, the chair of his Council of Economic Advisors. Listen to this.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Since they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about.
Rewind that back if you want. It doesn't get any better. I didn't edit that at all, by the way. The people who put that clip up, I don't know what they did to edit it. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I didn't edit that. The visual of it, I think, is worse than the audio. if you can believe that. That is Joe Biden's chair of his White House Council of Economic Advisors. And I have to be careful here because, again, I don't know the context of that clip. From what I understand, it is from a documentary that has either just come out or is about to come out from people who support what you heard him quickly say there, MMT, if you caught it. MMT is modern monetary theory. I believe it is. Modern monetary theory. These are people who sound like that girl you heard earlier. I'm sorry, that's going to offend some people, but they do. They sound like the girl you heard earlier. Maybe a little smarter. They can discuss it in a more intelligent way, but they believe that deficits do not matter, Governments should not worry about deficits because they have the ability to print their own currency. Well, we do, but every government doesn't. I don't know if they stipulate that, but that's what they believe. We should not be borrowing. We should be printing money, paying off our debt, and that's how our monetary policy should work. This is what they believe. I ain't making this up. Go look it up. Go look up MMT, modern monetary theory. They believe that we've been doing it wrong all this time. Supply and demand, supply of money. They think we've been doing it all wrong. Back when people were saying, hey, I need a horse. What will you give me for it? I'll give you 10 chickens and a goat. Well, how come 10 chickens and a goat? Well, because it's a lot easier to get your hands on a chicken than it is to get your hands on a horse. That's how currency works. It has value. It has value. If you just, what am I doing? I can't. What? The point is, you heard him in the beginning. We can't go bankrupt because we print our own money. So that nonsense, it's working its way into the Biden White House. We can't go bankrupt because we print our own money. What about inflation? The common theory that we understand, raise interest rates. The MMT people, they say increase taxes to deal with inflation if you get inflation. This deserves discussion at a later date, but I can't get sidetracked with it. Oh, did I get off the document? So it's a documentary. The people, I don't know if they were trying to make fun of Jared Bernstein there, or if they are so much farther to the left of Jared Bernstein on their theory on economic policy. So that's why I say it's out of context. I don't fully know what the deal was there, but he did not do well answering the question. If we print our own money, why do we have to borrow? If you don't know the answer to that, don't worry. Neither does Jared Bernstein. Let's move on. I've been threatening to talk about this whole rezoning idea. I was supposed to last episode or episode before. I forgot all about it. So if you don't know, there is a push to rezone affluent, nice neighborhoods, upper income neighborhoods to allow for the building of low income or affordable housing. The long and short of it, communities put in place rules that would keep out affordable housing or the building of low income housing. They put in these different rules in place to say, this land can't be built on for that. It's zoned for this. You can't build this here, because they were trying to keep out low-income housing. Well, there's been a push to undo those rules, undo those laws, and rezone some of those spaces for low-income housing, basically because they say it's unfair that underprivileged, underserved communities don't get access to education and the resources that other neighborhoods do. I think I'm going to skip the clip on this one. I'm going to save time and skip it. I gave you an explanation of it. All right. I can tell already where I am with time. I'm going to end up running long on this. So I'll skip the clip. That's the explanation of what's going on. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, you can look it up. So communities all over the country are grappling with this idea. Now, do I have a problem with rezoning, with this rezoning idea? Does a Jamaican have big feet? Now, hang on. Let me explain why. Am I racist? I can't be racist if I discriminate against everybody. Do I lack compassion or empathy for those less fortunate? That goes without saying. Am I being elitist? Now, how many times do I have to tell you I'm not rich? I'll tell you the same thing I told the guy at the marina who wanted to charge me more for my boat slip this year. I ain't made of money. Take my 100-foot Sunseeker yacht somewhere else? No, it's none of those things. The problem I have with this idea is people. It's people. I moved where I moved to get away from people. All people. Away from population density. Away from congestion. I went out of my way to get away from all of that. Now you want to build high-density multifamily housing in my community? Now, look, I'm not saying I think I'm going to walk outside and there's going to be loose pit bulls walking around, or a baby wearing nothing but a tank top, or a guy sitting on a stoop playing a wash tub. blowing into a jug. I'm not saying I think I'm going to see all that. I'm saying I have a problem with people in general. There's a winery near me. Nice place. They make wine, and they had a nice outside seating area that people could come and sit and enjoy wine. Sometimes they'd have free wine tasting, or you buy wine and you sit there and you enjoy yourself. Well, they finally had to crack down on people bringing their kids and letting them run wild. The people would show up and they just turn their kids loose, and the kids just tear up the winery while they sat there and got drunk because they figured out, hey, this is better than the playground. Can't get this drunk at the playground. And so they had to crack down on that and say, look, either don't bring your kids or don't let your kids get more than 2 feet away from you. People. Remember how we used to say, the customer's always right. That's how you got to be in business. The customer's always right. You'll go bankrupt if you say that today. You got people walking into a store. Yeah, I'd like to return this piece of junk. What is it? It's an air fryer I bought to use in the bathroom. What? I wanted to cook bacon while I took a shower. Nothing said don't get it wet. No, actually, the very first thing it said was don't get it wet. But that's what you deal with. People. There's a highway near me where they've got to spend 10 years and definitely over $100 million to redesign a particularly congested portion of this highway. And when it finally opened, it was more congested than ever. Why? People. The design has a bit of a tricky merge, but it's manageable if people aren't driving like they're on the last lap of the Brickyard 400. But because they are, and because they don't want to use their turn signals because that would give away their next move, there's always accidents. From the day it opened, it was more congested than it ever had been. And every single day at rush hour, there's at least one accident, usually 2 or 3. And the traffic is worse than what before they spent the 10 years and $100 million. It's worse because of people. So yes, I have land around me that is zoned as protected space. It's protected open space. There could be no building of anything. It's to preserve our idyllic pastoral community. Because people don't necessarily want 3 or 4 story multifamily housing units going up in a community that they move to, maybe spend a lot of money to move to get away from people. I'm okay with being farther away from everything to have the peace and quiet. Now they want to disturb my peace and quiet by building housing on the open spaces that make my community feel like I wanted when I moved there. It's not about race. It's not about poor people moving in. I'm okay with poor people. I don't like broke people. I'm okay with poor people. I don't like broke people. What's the difference? A poor person is a working mother of 2 or someone who's hustling trying to get ahead. A broke person is a college student. Would you want your community rezoned to allow for a frat house or housing for college students? No. So for me, this really is simply about this is the community I moved to that suits me. Don't force people to have to accept a totally different community because there was a failure to provide quality education, housing, and basic needs to underserved communities. I don't have much, but I like it the way it is. What's next? Get me fired up on that one. Ooh, let me see here. I gotta play these couple of clips I've had forever. I got to. You know what? I'm not going to play those. Those will probably tie in better when I finally get that guest in. So I'm going to hold off on those couple. I got to play these recent clips from Bill Maher. Can you imagine? I thought I was going to blow through like 10 clips. I'll be lucky to get through like 4 or 5. But this ties in better with this episode. These clips I have from Bill Maher's, I believe it was his most recent episode. It ties in perfectly with this tale of 2 Stormy'S. A tale of 2 realities in this country right now. It all depends on where you get your information. What's your reality? All depends on what you get your information from. And we've been saying people have their own bubbles. They exist in their own bubbles. No, we need to change that to people exist in their own fortress. Forget about bubbles. People exist in their own fortress. Let me play this clip from Bill Maher's show.
Now that I'm doing interviews for this, the big question that people are asking me, I see every interview ask the same question, which is like, you make fun of the left a lot more than you used to. Yes, I do, because they're goofier and more obnoxious than they used to be. It doesn't mean I've turned into a Republican. I haven't changed on that at all. They also just became weirder. They're still not the threat the Republicans are, but I do both. And the question I get from everybody is, if you really don't want Trump elected, and I really don't, then why don't you just shut up about Joe Biden and just shut up about what's wrong with the left? Head of the New York Times, the executive editor, Joe Kahn, was asked almost the same question. This guy, Dan Pfeiffer, used to work for Obama. He was complaining. He said the Times does not see their job as saving democracy or stopping an authoritarian from taking power. He was complaining that they don't do it. And Mr. Kahn said, I don't even know how that would work. We become an instrument for the Biden campaign and put out a stream of stuff that's very, very favorable to them and only write negative stories about the other side.
Let me just stop it here to explain. Maybe I should have done a better job setting this up. But Bill Maher's talking to a couple of journalists, and he's saying he gets criticized for making fun of the left more than he ever did in the past. He says, yeah, I do, because the left has gotten a lot more obnoxious and a lot weirder. Not as bad as Republicans, but even so. Make sure you understand, he references a guy by the name of Dan Pfeiffer who used to be in the Obama administration. And to be clear, he's saying he is upset with the New York Times because the New York Times does not think it is their job to save democracy or stop authoritarianism, stop a dictatorship. He's saying that, in other words, he thinks the New York Times should see their job as that way. This is crazy. This is crazy. How can anybody say that about media? That it's the media's job to save democracy, not the people. Let's continue on.
Yeah. But now here's Mr. Kahn, what he said. He said, there are people who want to elect Donald Trump as president. It is not the job of the news media to prevent that from happening. It's the job of Biden and the people around him. So I applaud this. I think that is the right. But I wanted to get you guys on this. If you really, I mean, it is a reasonable question. If you really don't want Trump to be elected, should you just be quiet about the other side's flaws?
Absolutely
No.
not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. If you ignore and you sugarcoat Joe Biden's shortcomings, then when you turn your attention to Donald Trump's wretchedness, you've surrendered all credibility.
Right.
And we don't have a surfeit of credibility to work with right now. It's our job.
Thank you. Thank you. I swear, I do this little tiny, little bitty itty, nobody knows who the heck I am podcast, but it still frustrates me as much as I think it would frustrate me if I had 10 million listeners. I don't care if I got 2 people listening or 10 million people listening. It frustrates me to have people think, well, if you hate Donald Trump, why are you criticizing Joe Biden so much? Why are you criticizing the left so much? That it drives me crazy that people would tune into the show and go, oh, yeah, he rails on Trump, but he just rails on Biden way too much. You surrender all credibility. That's what the guy said. I just did an episode. The last episode I just did, I asked a question. How oblivious do you want me to be? How much needs to be ignored to make someone say, okay, I'll make you my information source because you won't tell me what I don't want to hear? If I do that, if I play along, if I go easy on Biden, never say anything negative about him, I'll get more likes and clicks and follows and 5-star ratings. But don't I lose all credibility as an information source if I do that? Don't I lose all credibility? Like I said, whether I got 2 people listening or 10 million. Doesn't it make me a one-sided podcast with a one-sided audience? And if all we have are one-sided podcasts with one-sided audiences, we have a tale of 2 realities. Let me go on with this. I don't want to play the guy's whole show, but this was I think the total, this whole discussion might have been like 5 or 6 minutes, but it was one of the most important and best 5 or 6 minutes I think I have heard in the last 4 years in regards to politics. Let me go on.
It's our job to cover both of these candidates honestly. And I honestly believe that if we do that, the one who will end up in the less flattering light is one Donald Trump. And it's our job to be a part of democracy. If you believe in democracy, you give voters a full menu of information. You don't feed them baby bird style, just what you think they can tolerate, right? Or what you want them to eat.
Right.
And then you let them make the decision. That's called a democracy. And we've spent the last years since 2016, when Trump was elected, we've been saying we are the servants of truth, we are the guardians of truth. We can't say, but there's an asterisk if we think telling you the truth might have an election turn out differently from what we want.
I can't understand this, I have to say. I don't know about the job of a comedian, but the job of a journalist in relation to politicians is famously what the position of a dog should be to a lamppost. You're meant to piss on them. You're not meant to be. The media is not meant to be, journalists are not meant to be the amen chorus of any political party, any politician. We're just meant to report the truth as we see it. Of course, it's editorializing, but this idea that it's like a team sport, if you want a team sport, go into politics. Don't be in journalism and the media.
Amen. Amen. I don't know about the whole, pissing on politicians as a journalist. As the guy says, that's what they're meant to do. I don't know why they can't present the information without being nasty about it. It's like I said before about Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe. He runs through this long laundry list of Donald Trump's misdeeds as he sees them and as a lot of people see them. But he constantly has to do it in a way where he just attacks the people who support Donald Trump. And for the life of me, I don't know why he feels the need to do it that way. It's not helpful. It certainly is not going to make those people eager to tune into his TV show or any TV show that does that attacks Donald Trump, but does it in a way where they're also attacking the people who support him. And that's exactly what Morning Joe does on his show every single day. Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, Donald Trump is that, Donald Trump. I'm going to execute generals. Donald Trump stole nuclear secrets. Donald Trump raped a woman. Donald Trump, whatever, everything. And yet these people support him. That's what he always adds in. And yet these people support him. And there's no reason for it. There's no reason to support Donald Trump. These people are idiots. These people are stupid. These people are horrible people if they support Donald Trump. And he always says, always on his show, I know some Trump supporter. I got some Trump supporting friends of mine. And I always ask them, why do you support Donald Trump? And you know the answer they give me? Taxes. Taxes. They want the tax cut. Well, I would say to Joe Scarborough, you need to get some poorer friends. Maybe all your friends are too rich. Because I know some Trump supporters too. And when I ask them, they never say taxes. Ever. That's never the reason they give. The reasons they give are the reasons I've given you on this podcast in 5 or 6 different episodes where I covered the topic. Why people support Donald Trump. How to be friends with a Trump supporter. How to understand a conservative mind. I've given reasons. None of them had to do with taxes. I've probably given 25 different reasons that you could agree with or disagree with on this podcast as to why people support Donald Trump. And the only one Morning Joe can come up with is taxes? He must be talking to the wrong people. A tale of two Stormy'S. A tale of two realities. What can you believe? Their interpretation? You got to believe their interpretation. You got nothing else if you don't talk to those people. If you don't talk to those people, it's the same as in that courtroom. You don't have the audio and you don't have the video. So you don't know. You're relying on their interpretation. And their interpretation, whether it's on the left or whether it's on the right, is just like you just heard that guy said. The amen chorus of whatever political party they're supporting. Whatever political party their network supports for profit. For profit. Not because they support them, but it's about profit. What is going to get us ratings?
Look, if 50% of the population vote one way, 50% vote another, and occasionally you get this sort of small percentage who swing, I would have thought you at least have to take the reasons why people support Trump seriously and assume that, they're sort of voting for him in spite of what they know about him. And I think that there's this very, very strange thing that's happened in this country, and it's worse than any other democracy I know, which is that you have now a situation where people don't have different opinions. They have different facts. And so everything that you can say from 2016 if you're a Democrat, and from 2020 or if you're a Republican, or from this year on, is just a totally different set of facts, a totally different version of the history.
Okay, but
my worry is
that's
that you can't...
That's called the internet and social.
They go on and on. If you missed that, please rewind it. I don't want to play it over again. But the guy said maybe the most important thing said on Bill Maher's show this year. If you listen closely, he said, if 50% of the country vote this way and 50% of the country vote this way, at some point, you have to assume those people voting for Donald Trump are voting for him for a reason. They're voting for him in spite of who he is. Not because of who he is, in spite of who he is. We sit here and we act like they don't know who Donald Trump is or they're okay with Donald Trump. But at some point you have to assume, no, they're voting for Donald Trump in spite of who he is because they think the alternative is worse. That's what they believe. They think the alternative is worse. How is that possible? You have to go and ask them. How long ago was it that I said that? How many times? How many times on this podcast have I said that? How is that possible that they could possibly see Joe Biden as worse than Donald Trump? You gotta go and ask them. But you cannot. You cannot go and ask them if you think that they do not belong in this country. I mean, I truly, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I truly do not want to make light of this. But telling a non-MAGA person to go and talk to a MAGA person right now is like telling somebody from Hamas to go talk to somebody from the Israeli Defense Force and say, hey, how come you don't like us? That's where we have allowed this to get in this country. That's how bad we've allowed it to get in this country. And part of that, a lot of it, has to do with the election. And they're getting ready to get into a discussion. Like I said, I can't play the whole show. I got to start to wrap this up. But they're about to get into a discussion, which gets cut off because the show ends, where the one guy, the guy with all that foreigner in his mouth, I don't know why he can't just speak American, the guy with all the foreigner in his mouth, he kind of makes the point, listen, the Democrats were the same way when Trump beat Hillary. They thought it was a rigged election and Russia interference, and Donald Trump wasn't legitimate. It was the same. And right away, the other guy sitting there jumped all over him and said, oh, no. You can't say that. You can't compare what happened with Democrats in 2016 to January 6th. Once again, drives me insane. Insane. The guy never said a word about January 6th. You're comparing two different things. You're comparing thoughts and actions. The guy said people thought the election against Hillary was stolen. People think the election against Joe Biden was stolen from Trump. It's the thought. He didn't say anything about the action. He didn't compare those two things. But that's what people do. The second you say, well, hey, listen, didn't you deny the results of the election against Hillary? Didn't you come up with all sorts of things? Well, hang on a second here. Collusion, Russia collusion. We have evidence that people were giving polling data to Russians. People in swing states were giving polling data to Russians. We have evidence of that. We have evidence that idiot son number one, Don Jr., met with Russians at Trump Tower. We have evidence of this. We have evidence of that. All sorts of communications back and forth with Russia. James Comey, he ruined it because he reopened the investigation in the last 2 weeks. Bill Maher just said that in the episode prior. As he sits there calling people stupid for thinking there was election interference, he just said in the episode prior, James Comey cost Hillary the election by reopening that investigation 2 weeks prior. but not talking about anything that they were investigating having to do with Donald Trump and Russia. He blamed James Comey for stealing the comparison group. I know this drives people crazy because it feels like I'm trying to draw some equivalency here, or I'm trying to defend something that I'm not trying to defend. But I just personally think this is really important if you care about the democracy. I am just convinced that the people who keep saying we got to protect this democracy, we got to save this democracy from Donald Trump, it's all about fighting for the soul of our democracy. We're in a war. We're in a war for the soul of our democracy. Well, comparison group, if you're in a war, what is the most important thing you can have? The most important thing. Ask somebody who's been to war. They'll tell you. Situational awareness. Situational awareness is the most important thing you can have in a war, next to bullets. And what we do in this country is we cut ourselves off from any information we don't like. A tale of two Stormy's. A tale of two realities. Joe Scarborough sits on his show every day. I don't know. I don't know why these people would vote for Donald Trump. I don't know. Goofy as can be. 74 million people. 74 million people, Joe Scarborough, voted for Donald Trump last time because of taxes? Is that what you think, you big dummy? 74 million people? At what point do we stop saying they're stupid and say, how come? How come? Stop asking your rich friends and go ask some truck drivers. Go ask some coal miners. Go ask some iron workers. Go ask some construction workers. Go ask some cops. Go ask some firefighters. Go ask some teachers. Go ask some nurses. Go ask some veterans. 74 million people out there you have to choose from to ask the question. Ask the question. What is so bad about Joe Biden? What makes him worse, in your opinion? Like I say, don't go, hey, stupid, how come you're going to vote for Trump? Don't you think that's stupid? Don't you know about all this? No. Ask them, can you explain respectfully, why do you believe Biden and the Democrats are so bad? What can they do, if anything, to change your mind or earn your vote? Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if somebody asked that question? Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. You can't talk to those people. Those people aren't going to... I hear all the time, how are these people going to explain this to their grandchildren? How will they explain their support of Donald Trump to their grandchildren? It's getting to the point where there's going to be a lot of explaining going on. 30 years from now, Grandma, we were learning about the 2010s and 2020s in history today. Is it true a mentally ill buffoon became president of the United States? Yeah, honey, it's true. Well, why didn't anyone stop him? Well, you have to understand, back then the country was very divided. Not like it is today since we walled off Florida. Why was the country so divided? People were angry. Why were people angry? There was a lot of misinformation. Wasn't there anywhere people could go to get the right information? No, honey, not back then. But why? Because you couldn't make money that way. How could you possibly not make money giving people the right information? Excellent question. Ooh, I think that was a good one. If I could tone down the racism on this show, this might turn into something.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Thanks for listening. You know how much I appreciate it.
There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their mind are getting so much resistance from behind. Can we stop? Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
Listen on Apple Podcasts. Listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Everywhere you get podcasts. You'll notice in the description now, there's something where it says you can text the show. I don't know why it doesn't seem to work sometimes, but keep an eye out for that. You know I love the feedback. You know I love... Don't give me feedback saying water is pronounced water. Yeah, I'm over here, I'm spinning all this gold for you, and the only feedback you can tell me is I'm saying water wrong.
1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Take the feedback you get, I guess. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.
Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep.